Don't you dare skip ahead or change away, because previously on Worlds Asunder.
Yell at me on Twitter if you want. I won't see it. Don't get on social media and yell at me and say, no, there's all these exceptions. Yes, there's exceptions. I'm talking generalities. Get the generalities down and make your own exceptions.
As storytellers, we want to capture the hearts, minds, and imaginations of our readers, mainly through our expertly crafted worlds.
Creating new worlds in any genre might seem like a daunting task, but you don't have to reinvent the wheel for every story.
Welcome, weary writers, to Worlds Asunder, a world-building and writer's life podcast.
My co-host is David Shadoin, better known as Shady. It's not just a descriptor, it's also his moniker.
And she's H.Y. Grigger, or you can call her Haley, your friendly post-apocalyptic wasteland elf.
Together, we've got enough published to fill a small shelf, but why should you listen to us? Because we called in some favors.
Every other week, we bring you the best and brightest to give you the tips and tricks on world building and character building like the pros. So, open up your ear holes.
Get out your pen and paper.
And get ready for us to tear Worlds Asunder. This week, we come back with J.T. Evans for the City Planners Committee Part 2. Enjoy. Welcome back to Worlds Asunder, City Building with J.T. Evans Part 2. I haven't decided what I'm going to call this episode yet, so we'll say it's the only podcast now on the internet that typically doesn't do Part 2 intros, and that is now being forced to because of technical difficulties. And we swapped podcast recording software, so there's that. So if this looks a little different than part 1, you know why. There's your peek behind the curtain.
A really long episode title.
Mm-hmm. I told you I have no idea what I'm going to call it yet, so I'm just gonna make the title up as I go, which will probably be. Nope, no, it won't be. Never mind. Not going to say it. That'll be for everybody's enjoyment when it finally comes out.
Waiting with bated breath.
I'm sure you are. So we're back. Only maybe now 20 minutes later. After we recorded essentially what was the first episode, made a couple of jokes there right at the end. But we're going to rewind a little bit. We kind of jumped around some. But really, JT, the question for you now is, what is it? Where do we start? Right? Like where do you start? But where should we start? Why are we here?
Right. So I've already talked about my anchor points and numbering buildings and drawing streets and all that. But really, that is a middle of the process kind of step. Drawing the map. Really, you need to figure out why is there a city there in the first place? And I'm not talking a small village, because a small village could be like, well, it's where our wagon broke down. Right? And that happened a lot, especially during the Western expansion of the United States and that frontier, right? A lot of people are like, we're going to go to California and get gold. And then they hit Kansas and hit a pothole. And so they built a house there. And that's why you have like a lot of little blink towns all over the place, because there's no damn good reason to live there other than you got stranded. But as far as a city goes, a larger establishment, really you need 2 key things for why it's there. One is water, clean fresh water, I should say, and food. And those are generalities. Obviously, what kind of water, where does it come from? It could be wells, could be a river, it could be a lake, whatever. Food, lots of different food sources. Are you ranching? Are you fishing? Are you hunting? What kind of veggies are around? What kind of plant life can you eat on? And also, are there any natural resources nearby that you can leverage to build buildings out of? How the frontier folk built buildings in the middle of Kansas, I haven't a clue, because I don't think there's more than 3 trees in all of Kansas.
I've been there, can confirm.
Yes.
Sod.
Yes. Sod. Yeah, I guess you could use sod. Yeah. So you got to get creative. There you go. Desperate times call for desperate measures, I guess. So Really water and food and natural resources. Go look at your major river valleys in the world: the Nile, Mississippi, Missouri, the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, the Yellow River in China, so on and so forth. You'll see tons of cities all along those riverways because of the natural resources they provide. Also look at river mouths, which is a mouth of the river is where it dumps out into a larger body of water, whether that be a lake or an ocean or a sea or whatever. The two that popped into my head right now is New Orleans and Cairo. They're both on river mouths, and they're ginormous cities because they have natural resources and easy access to deep water, which assist in trade, mercantile, fishing. You're not just relying on the land itself for sustaining the city. You've got the ocean or Gulf or the sea there to help support. So once you figured out why there's a city there, then you can start digging into what the city is. And I like starting with a general concept, call it a theme, a style, a tone, whatever. Is the city struggling? Is it mostly evil, mostly good? Again, no city's homogenous. So don't apply one label. You can have most of the city is wealthy, but there's a couple of poor neighborhoods. Cool, that works. Or inverse that. Is it a border town? Is it a capital city? Is it in the middle of the nation? What's a threat to the city? What can cause the city to go haywire? Whether it's war, famine, disease, death. Hey, pick the four horsemen and just pick one and run with it. Is it overpopulation? Is the city in a limited amount of land and there's just too damn many people there? That usually leads to famine and disease. As we're recording this now, Hurricane number 2 is hitting the southeast of the United States, and both of them are, well, the first one was really bad. The second one looks worse. So what kind of natural disasters are there that happen in the area, whether it be earthquakes, hurricanes, tornadoes? Living here in Colorado, I worry a lot about forest fires and grass fires. The Waldo Canyon fire that was 15 years ago, I guess, burned 300 something homes in the city of Colorado Springs. It jumped a ridge and poured into the city. I had evacuees from that fire living in my house for about 2 weeks. A year later,
we got evacuated for the Hayman fire when I was a kid.
Okay, yeah, that was a big one. That was the biggest in the state's history, if I remember right. But a year later, we had the Black Forest fire, and me and my family got evacuated for it. Fortunately, we were able to come home to a home.
Yeah.
But yeah, so forest fires or wildfires. What are the threats to the city? Is it a neighboring nation that really doesn't like the city or wants to control the city or wants a natural resource of the city? So there's threat of warfare, persistent threat of warfare, actual warfare. That could be a thing. But threat of warfare, that's pretty hairy as far as the general tone of your city goes.
A border town that constantly gets taken over every couple of years by a different country.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Look at the Rhine River between Germany and France.
Crimea.
They've been fighting Crimea. Yeah. Those areas have been fought over for millennia. And for good reason. Not that there's good reason for war and fighting each other, but there's a lot of rich natural resources there that countries want. And in some cases, countries might need. They may be, poor in a resource and don't have the ability to trade for it, but they have more guys with sticks than the other guys with sticks, so they go club each other over the head for it.
Yeah. Or port access, a lot of the time trade routes too. And that's maybe more historical than now, but
yeah. It's legit now, Russia and Ukraine.
Yeah, those warm water ports.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, and then, we still, like, if we're going to stick in the real world, right? Like shipping, we think about tech and we think about like all these things that make our life easier. the way we create food, the way we distribute food, but shipping lanes and ports are still the number one way to distribute food across the
Oh
world.
yeah. Yep.
So it's, it's really the number one way to move goods across the world. We have a lot of planes in the air, and there's still more stuff moved by ship.
Oh, those ships are huge. The amount of just raw tonnage they move is amazing. I mean, they put airplanes on ships to move them about. So that tells you that, the carrying capacity of a ship is much, much greater than that of an airplane. So
yeah. But that kind of does bring up a piece of it, developing the theme of the city, right? Again, going back to the idea from part one about the soul of the city, which is, how is that city now going to react to all of these external threats?
Oh yeah, yeah. Is it an organized reaction? Is it chaotic? Is somebody in charge? Is somebody put in charge? How competent are they? All those are factors on the effectiveness of a response to an outside threat or even a natural threat. I believe it was the Great Chicago Fire. They had different fire departments that all had different types of equipment for hooking up to water sources, and each neighborhood-ish was different. So when they needed help from a neighboring fire station, they actually couldn't get that help because neighbor couldn't connect to the other neighbor's water source. Yeah, it was bad, and that's why a lot of Chicago burned. I could have my facts wrong on which major city fire it was, but a city fire in the U.S. this happened, and that led to standardization of fire hoses and fire hydrants and all that across the nation almost immediately after that, because they realized they could have mitigated the fire better had they been able to cooperate with one another more effectively.
And that kind of since hurricanes are the topic of the day, we see the different reactions between just states in the U.S. based on that, right? Like those who face hurricanes, almost not daily, but like monthly in Florida, they have a very different response. Not just in the fact of preparedness and ability to handle kind of a devastating thing, but also just in their cultural response, right? Like the people of Florida are, a lot of them are more likely to just sit it out and post a bunch of videos, trying to make fun of it or make light of it. That's where the
I would
concept
be losing my mind.
Florida man comes from, right?
Right.
But then you have unfortunately the devastation that swept from Hurricane Helene, because some of those more northern states, they're really still in the South, but they're not used to having such devastating impacts from a hurricane that's swept across mainland already.
Yeah.
So it's a very, and clearly, right, like the culture there, they didn't know what to do kind of as it happened. They didn't have a lot of warning. And so their reaction is very different. But
yeah, I mean, if I knew a hurricane was heading my way, I'm out. I'm out. Sorry, gone. Bye. I'm packing my stuff, my animals, my family. We're getting on the road. We're going somewhere else. Yeah. However, as a child, I grew up on the edge of Tornado Alley. And when we'd spot tornadoes, we'd stand on the front porch and point at them and go, yeah, it's probably about 1.5 miles away. Yep, it's coming this way. We'll see if it changes directions before we run inside and get in the tornado shelter. And we would sightsee tornadoes. Because that was our common threat. That was just a normal thing for us.
Yeah.
I grew up in Tornado Alley as well. And Twister had come out right before we started getting cars and stuff. And so it was, all of the dumb teenagers are like, oh, I can do that.
Yeah, I never chased them, but I'd watch them. So yeah, just again, it's what is your norm? What is the normal for the city? And your citizens are going to react blasé to a normal threat, even if it's a major threat. And so you need to throw a curveball at them, especially your protagonist, and give them the abnormal threat. and make sure give them a freak out moment. Old critique partner of mine, Patrick Hester, he was like, your characters need to freak out more. That was his common feedback, specifically to me usually, and to other people. But my protagonist would handle abnormal events almost like, oh, yawn, yeah, it's just another demon. So that abnormal threat, you really need to have your citizenry flip the lid on that, and that'll cause even more problems for your protagonist because now there's chaos in the streets.
Yeah. And kind of going on to that, it leads back into the leadership and who takes control of the city and who handles what situation. And that
Levels
then
of
kind of leads
government.
into, and we ended on talking about like the legal system, but when do you punish the criminals? When do the criminals take control?
Sure. It depends on your story, really. What kind of story are you telling? You don't have to say, oh, the law is right at all times, because that's been proven incorrect throughout history. There have been immoral laws. So, falling back on the old AD&D alignment thing, you have law and chaos and good and evil, and they intersect, but they're not the same measuring stick. So, yeah, when it comes to who's in control during a time of chaos, really it's going to be the smaller units of people that are organized are going to be in control of their little area, more so than the mayor or the emperor or the city council or whoever trying to control the whole city. Because my problems on my city block may be caused by the same thing as your problems across town on your city block, but I can't help you, you can't help me, so I'm going to help myself while you help yourself. And that's where vigilante justice comes into play, or just vigilante protection, like your neighborhood watch, but taken to an extreme, where we're not going to put up with any crap. Yeah, Batman. Yeah, Batman's the vigilante there. Yeah, he goes after the criminals, not the good guys usually. But think of your roving bands of protectors, and they can step over a line quite easily, but they don't always. Sometimes they're doing the right thing, and they're always going to do the right thing. But again, that stepping over the line gets a little blurry, and they could do something bad while in the process of protecting their own.
Well, that's also where your smaller crime rings can come in too.
Oh, sure.
If you have a looser government structure, or a government structure that has a hard time reaching all of the little corners of your city, then that's where you have little space for little power vacuums to happen.
Right. Or inadequate or ineffective leadership from above. I'm mainly thinking of probably New York City in the 80s, maybe into early 90s, where crack cocaine was a horrible pandemic or epidemic for New York City. And the leadership and the legal system and the cops couldn't work together to get a grip on it until sometime in the 90s. But during the 80s, yeah, drug dealers ruled that city. And maybe not the whole city. I mean, it's a huge city. You can't say 100% of New York City was run by drug dealers. It just, that won't be a factual statement. But a lot of neighborhoods, the cops were afraid to go into.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I love how we're kind of hitting the intersection where the world influences your characters. Because that's something we haven't talked about a ton. We kind of discuss them like they're two separate things, but they're really not. And so I love finding those points where the conflict is coming directly from your city or, the world building you've set up.
Right, yeah. And where your character comes from in the city is going to color how they act, react, speak. There's different dialects. I mean, you look at, again, New York City and all the boroughs, there's different accents and sayings and phrases and cultural influences depending on what borough your character may or may not be from. In my instance, my Flashing Blade series is dual protagonist. I have Styles, who grew up in the Hive, which is the slums. He's not formally educated. He's not even literate. And he uses, ain't and double negatives, and I ain't not never doing that, or I ain't not going back in there. I'm gonna, what you doing that for? Things like that. And his partner in crime is AL, and she grew up actually in the countryside in a small village outside Mesnik. Got captured by the Emperor's forces. This is backstory. Yeah, I'm not going to spoil it too much. Anyway, she ended up becoming enslaved. She has the ability to sing to blades. She's a blade singer, so she can put magic into swords. So a merchant who discovered this about her, bought her, put her in the gladiatorial arena, which is one of my key locations in the city. She eventually earned her freedom and joined up with Styles. But AL, during her childhood, was formally educated. She's very well spoken. She knows all the $5 words. However, Styles is the smart one of the two of them, which is a fun dichotomy to play with. And I'm not saying AL is stupid. Styles is just a brilliant, brilliant dude. He just doesn't have a formal education to stand on. And it's fun to play with those two characters interacting with each other. And again, they came from different backgrounds, different parts of the nation, lived in different parts of the city.
Well, and you kind of touched on it a little bit too. The tone of the city hits on your characters, but it also then hits on, what does the city produce? What do your characters help the city produce? Whether we're talking, how does it change methods of combat or construction? If they're magical, or even if they're not, how do you then kind of draw those lines to the next thing? Like, and how much of that do you fill out?
Honestly, I kind of make that part up as I go, because it's dependent on the characters that I'm playing with. I have a lot of side characters, a lot of named side characters, not as many as like George R. R. Martin or Tolkien or anything like that. But the character's influence on the city is really dependent on what influence I need them to have in that moment in the story. And once I've established how they influence the city, I'll make a note of it. I have character profiles on all the named folks, important named folks. And I make sure and note what services or goods they provide to the city, either for the city itself or to export somewhere else.
Then, so do you have like a kind of an idea of what the city is going to, export? Does it change based on who's in control?
It can, certainly, yeah. Or even how much they export. If they export at all, there may be, wide open flowing ports full of goods going in and out. And then you might have change of leadership to an isolationist type leader, like Thomas Jefferson. He was an isolationist. He still kept trade going between our allies, but he increased customs and tariffs to make us less dependent on foreign needs, which also he reduced the size of our Navy because we didn't have as many mercantile going, and that had disastrous results down the road. I think Jefferson was a perfectly fine president from a historical standpoint, but that was his main mistake, was not keeping our military forces, especially naval forces, up to snuff. Because he was all about, let's build the United States of America and keep everybody else away and out and all that. So that certainly changed import-export right there. Yeah, I'm a bit of a history nerd.
I love it.
Turns out you need a military to be an isolationist. But
you are absolutely correct. Yes.
As it happens, as the U.S. learned multiple times throughout history.
Right.
So, getting just flowing right through the export piece, that then leads us to, how do you fit that puzzle piece, right? Because we don't just build one city. So, I mean, sometimes we do, right? Sometimes we can get away with, writing a story in a single city. We don't have to discuss too much about the outside world, but then what do you consider when you have to, take in other cities, take in other nations? Do you flesh them out just as much, or is that still kind of more on the fly based on what you need?
I give relative distances, usually in time, not miles. And I do a relative distance, a direction, and a name, and that's about it. And again, I'm hyper focused in on one city for my Flashing Blade series. If I were having them travel between cities or across nations, things like that, then yeah, I would have your more Middle Earth style map going on, but I would have a lot less detail per city because they're not spending a lot of time in each individual city, whereas Flashing Blades, everything is inside the city, and that's on purpose. So it just depends on the needs of your story. In my case, I have somewhere in my notes, blah, blah, blah city is, 5 days ride north. There's a couple of cities, 2-3 days east, so on and so forth. And you can tell that I don't use them a whole lot because I don't know the names of the cities. And that's why I have notes. And again, they're just offhand reference. In the first book, Dark Blessing, Ale and Styles are breaking into a warehouse. Don't worry, it's not a spoiler. It's opening of chapter 1. To steal some fancy idols that were imported from whatever the city name was to the north. And I have the city name in my notes and in the book, and honestly, I'm almost done with book 3 in the series, and I don't think that city name has come up yet again after that one reference, but it's in my notes in case I need it again.
That's one thing that we've discussed a lot on this podcast. It comes up every episode, where it's learning where to not cut your losses, but like where the watermark on the iceberg is, the water line, right?
Yeah.
How much do you actually need to show in order to get your point across? And then there's always the rule of cool. Like you have this thing that you're like, yeah, I maybe went a little bit too into this, but this is part of what is going to, give my city its soul, or give my world something that makes it really unique. But how much is too much, right?
Sure.
So that balance is something that we're always trying to tell people that they're going to have to figure out, because it changes so much. It's always in flux.
Yeah. So for my rule of thumb is it needs to feel lived in and breathing at the same time. And the way I do that within Mesnik is if I have a character chasing somebody, they're going to race between 2 buildings down an alley. I don't name the buildings because they're running, they're racing. They don't give a flip about what buildings they're running between, right? However, if they're doing a casual walk or stroll down a street and I have them cut between 2 buildings for a shortcut, I will name those buildings. I will drop the names of the tea shop and the pottery shop, and I'll actually put the proper names of them, of the 2 buildings they cut between, because they know the buildings, they know what's there, and by dropping proper names of the business establishments, it builds up the city more, makes it more of a character.
Well, and that's character reference as well, right? Because if they're in a part of the city they don't know, they could say it's this ugly shop that has, stupid things in the window, or this, had a really cool sign, and it changes their perspective, which is, something that's indicative to the readers as well.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Because you should be telling the story about the city from your character's point of view, as opposed to the other way around. I mean, I've lived in Colorado Springs 26 years now. I don't know every neighborhood. Thank God for Google Maps and GPS.
Yeah.
So yeah.
What other unique aspects of the city then can you include? And this is kind of partially a leading question / I'm digging a little bit to see, because I know what I would say. So I'm going to see what you say. But, we've talked about the soul of the city. We've talked about the different neighborhoods. How else? And then we've talked about how the characters interact with them. How else do we differentiate?
So to make your city different or unique, there's 3 overarching factors that kind of fall into that. One is your latitude. In other words, how far away from the equator are you? What is the altitude above sea level? And how far away is it from a nearby body of water? Because those 3 things determine a lot about the environment. I moved from San Antonio, Texas to Havre, Montana when I was almost 24 years old. So I moved from 2 hours from the Gulf Coast at 210 feet sea level, something like that. And super hot. It was May when I moved, and we were already creeping close to triple-digit weather with super high humidity. Havre is High Plains, Montana, 50 miles from the Canadian border. So I moved there, and it was like barely above 80 degrees. It's like 8,000 foot altitude. I could barely breathe because I went from sea level essentially to atop a mountain range. It felt like, and I was walking around in a t-shirt and jeans, thinking this is great weather. This is cool. Feels wonderful. All the natives of Havre were like in halter tops and cut off shorts, things like that, still sweating. And they're like, how in the hell can you wear long pants in hot weather like this? And I was like, no, this isn't hot. And then eventually they learned where I was from, and they laughed and said, just wait for winter. They were right. That winter was rough. So keep those 3 factors in mind for how weather and environment is gonna treat you. Also, the further north, the fewer natural deciduous trees you're going to have, and the more natural evergreens. Yeah, we've transplanted trees all over the place now, so that's kind of a don't look at that at modern times and what trees go where. But typically, your evergreens are further north, your deciduous are further south, and they meet in the middle with a huge swath of overlap. So there's not a hard line between the two. Does that help,
Colorado
JD?
right now is confused. Oh yeah, for sure. I was gonna say Colorado is confused right now on whether or not it wants to be deciduous or coniferous.
Yes.
But,
yes.
No, that's normal. It's not confused. You're confused.
But it does kind of bring into play a little bit too that the different places that you end up with your city, right, based on geographical location, based on how big it is, like your hamlet up to the north is probably going to smell a lot fresher. It's going to look different, right? Like,
oh yeah,
you're going to have cleaner air. And so when your characters are going about and you're trying to find ways to describe it, you're not going to use an overwhelming stench. You're going to, you're going to talk about the freshness of the place, the serenity a little bit. But then you go to, some place like, if we talk about Middle Ages London, right? While it is further north, the bigger city, like that's where it's, oh man, the overwhelming stench of, of human feces.
Sure.
That's one of those things, right? Because they dumped all their slop into the streets, and that was all based around the fact that, running water for them didn't exist as quickly as it did in a place like Rome.
Exactly. Yeah. And your city-based characters, when they go to the wilderness or small town, they may be put off by the smell of fresh cut grass or pine needles or whatever. They'd be like, what is, they sneeze a lot perhaps. Maybe it triggers allergies that they don't have in the city because the city has no flipping plants, right? At least not naturally growing. So there could be like, what in the world is that nasty smell? Oh, that's a pine tree, dude. Oh, okay. And, because they're accustomed to unwashed bodies and waste in the street. Not that those are pleasant smells, but it's what you're used to, your norm. I know moving. Oh, go ahead.
No, you're.
Okay, I was going to say that for me, moving from San Antonio to Havre was definitely a shift because San Antonio is down in a bowl and there's not a lot of high winds, so it's not really smog, but you can see the haze. It's like the Denver haze, right? From all the car exhaust. And Havre Havre being high plains, had high winds, and very clean smelling air. So it was refreshing to be in Havre, for me at least, as compared to San Antonio, because of the just changing environment.
I was just going to say it's great mining for character quirks when you can have characters complaining about things that to others seem totally normal, like weather
Sure.
or sense or temperature, those kind of things. It's a great crossover spot.
Yeah, in
And it
my
creates
second Flashing Blades novel, I have a concept called the Diamond Summer, because the cobbled streets glittered like diamonds because they're so hot.
Mm.
And
Ooh, I like
everybody's on edge, and tempers are flaring. People are fighting for really no good reason. Like, they'd bump into each other, and normally they'd be like, "Oh, sorry, didn't mean to run into you." But when people get that hot, physically hot, in that kind of environment, even a bump in the shoulder starts a fight. And so it was a high tension. I used that on purpose to drive tensions up throughout the entirety of the novel.
I get pissed off when I'm that hot.
Oh, me too. Me too.
But I was going to say, kind of on that note, right? You beat me to the punch there. It creates natural conflict, right? And
Yeah.
not all that conflict has to be, oh, this broke out into a fight. It could just be something as simple as like, I'm misunderstanding this thing, right? One person's feeling uncomfortable because they're in a setting that they're not used to being in, and the other person's feeling completely comfortable, and they're like, yeah, I don't know why you're having such a problem right now, right? And that creates just that little bit of tension, just the natural human life tension, and that draws readers almost as easily as like, oh, we have this giant war between forces, right?
Yeah.
So it's definitely useful in its way to give that, again, coming back to the city's soul, giving that city a soul, that, or even like, and really at this point we're talking about any location, giving a location a soul. I know we kind of focus primarily on cities, but a lot of this stuff we can take and apply it to, to a hamlet, or to like spread out farming lands, because they're going to answer the same questions.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Even a sub neighborhood would have a different soul of, different from the whole city. I use that in Hive Dreams, which is the second Flashing Blades book. They have to go into the hive. Ale and Styles, my two protagonists, go into the hive to accomplish mission. I won't spoil what that is because it's part of the book. But when they cross the threshold into the hive, Styles, who grew up there, tells Ale, look out for anything dangerous and, watch my back. And she's like, define anything dangerous. What do you mean by that? And Styles' response is, anybody not the two of us is dangerous. Which amped up. And I alternate points of view between Styles and AL. Every other chapter swaps, right? And I'm in AL's point of view, and she's like, oh, crap. Anybody not us is a threat. Okay. And so it upped the tension of the story.
All right. So we know that you brought a little bit of a show and tell thing.
Sure.
And I know you're really excited about it, and I've seen different variations of this.
Right.
So I know Haley and I are both excited to help share it with the rest of the world here. Talk us through kind of as we get ready to close out. Talk us through your map, and then kind of like how you develop all of this, right? Like start to finish.
Right. So I started with a large sheet of paper, 14 by 17, because I knew I wanted a big city, and so I wanted a lot of room to work with. Let's see here. I think that's the right. See if that shows up there on the video. So that's Mesnick.
Ooh, yeah.
In my rough draft. This is my inked version. I actually started with pencil first. That way I could erase and make corrections and changes. I'd be like, now I want to move that building, or nuke that building, or whatever. And then I went back and meticulously inked every pencil line on there so that I could scan it. And then I discovered I didn't have a scanner big enough for it. So I put it on the ground, on the floor. My wife does photography, so I snagged some of her round ring lights and aimed them down at the floor to get rid of shadows. Grabbed the step ladder in my phone and took like 40 photos in case 39 of them were blurry. I was really nervous about the whole process of photographing my map. Went through them, found the one I liked, slurped it into my photo editing software, my image editing software, converted it from full color to just black and white. That way I just had straight black and white, cleaned up some edges with the eraser tool, yada, yada, yada. And then I started adding layers. Each layer was a number or anchor location label. And I ended up, after going blind doing this, see here, we're going to open up and share. Mesnik. And you can see over here, this is the Warrens, which I unfortunately lost my lair for that. I must have merged it. This is the Hive. I've since renamed it. Out here, we have a ginormous cemetery. It honestly should probably be a little bigger. That's the tombstones are just icons. They're not one-to-one. There's more graves there than just the iconography would indicate. Farmlands with farming houses out here. Here's the swamp out here. I actually have a numbered location, 691, little shack out in the swamp. But I will zoom in a little bit, and you can see all the different numbers, all the different numbered locations, and there's 800 of them.
Wow.
Here you see the arena right here, one of the anchor locations. Up here is Turkin Square, another anchor location. And you can see that some of the roads are slate or cobble. Some of the roads are dirt.
So for those that don't know JT, he is also a meticulous outliner.
Yes.
So this quality, this level of detail is something that I have seen from him before, because his outlines are incredibly detailed as well. So this is like next level mapping for a city.
Oh yeah. And I would not have done this to this level of detail for a novel. I knew I was going to write a series of many, many novels in this setting, so it was worth my time and effort to put it all together. But up here we have the Spire, we have the Emperor Citadel. I think that's all my anchor locations. I want to zoom out real quick, and we obviously have a river running, bifurcating the city with an island at the bottom. And you can see that the river gets more narrow. This is a cliff face here. This 800 is a cave mouth, but this is a cliff face. And the river runs along it, widens out as it slows down beyond the cliff, goes around an island, and the Mortine River continues on to the south.
So if you're just listening and once we get the video up and you're interested, highly recommend coming and checking us out over on YouTube or wherever else we get it posted so you can take a look at this, because it is very cool. I'm biased. I love maps.
And this is a utilitarian map. I would not put this in a book. For one, it's too damn big. Putting it on a 6.5 by 9 book, it would just be too tiny. It would be illegible. I also wouldn't put the numbers on the map if I were putting it in a book, because the numbers are just distracting. What else was I going to say about the red dots? If you see the red dots in the map, these are all shrines to different aspects of humanity. So there's no polytheistic religion going on here. There's no, say, ancestor spirit veneration or worship, anything like that. There are different shrines around the city, and there's dozens and dozens of them that venerate different aspects of humanity. I don't have a dot out here in the Warrens, but there's the Lost Coin Shrine, and it's literally a shrine in the poorest part of town that's made of nothing but coins, but you can't get a coin off. If you try, you fail. It's the nature of the shrine to keep the coins all together in this big, stalagmite of coins from all eras of Mesnik and the Empire. and it's like the poorest of the poor have to walk by the shrine. It's next to one of the wells in the hive, and they just have to look at it and go, "Man, what if?" It's like the people that play the lottery and want to win but never do, right?
Yeah.
Oh man, what
Totally.
if? It's the lottery dreams. So yeah, there's Mesnick being shared, and like I said, it took me about 2 months to get this map put together.
I will make a mental note to never show you the city map that I made up for Eldros Legacy for Stone Whisper, my first novel, because it was real rough.
Hey, did it accomplish the objective of keeping you on track
It
and
did.
keeping things
Yeah.
sane for you, right? Then it's a great map. It may look ugly. I don't care. Maps are tools, first and foremost. And then if you want the art object, which I know tons of people who have like maps of Middle Earth or whatever hanging on their wall,
On a blanket.
or on a
And
blanket, there you go.
that's
There
what it
you go.
says. Yeah.
So I can guarantee you J.R.R. Tolkien did not have a beautiful map like that from the get-go. It might have
Right.
evolved into that, but he did not have that from the start.
I think he drew it though, didn't he?
I think he
I
did.
could be
I
wrong.
don't know, but I've heard that he did. So yeah. Of course, being the meticulous perfectionist he is, it wouldn't surprise me if he came out real close to the final product out of the gate.
Yeah. Well, and he might have started with it. Who knows? Actually, I'm sure it's
Sure.
recorded somewhere. There's a Tolkien scholar somewhere who knows the answer to that question.
Right.
So
Right.
But in drawing your map, right, in creating it, did that then? I mean, did that change some parts of your story?
Oh
Did that
yeah.
change parts of
Yeah.
how you thought it would affect once you actually laid it out and saw the visual?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Like the island is Scholar Isle. However, its original name was Royal Isle because that's where the royal family established the city to begin with because it's the most defensible spot, the island in the middle of the river. The northernmost point of Scholar Isle is the old royal palace. And some 300 years ago or so in Mesnick's history, overnight, the emperor and his family were like, nope, done with this joint, and built a wrought iron fence around it, put up guards in the gate, and said nobody ever comes in here ever again. If anybody tries, kill them instantly. Don't, no questions asked, right? And they moved out and moved somewhere else and had a new citadel built up on the top of the cliff. Nobody knows why the emperor and his family noped out 300 years ago in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
So
Nobody
yeah,
knows why yet.
yet. You'll get that in book 3, which I'm almost done writing. Oh, almost done writing. Yes.
Good luck.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for giving us your precious writing time to talk
You're
about
welcome.
it.
You're welcome. So
We appreciate
yeah.
you very much.
But the all the buildings on Scholar Isle are stone and very well built, solidly built, multiple stories, a lot of towers, things of that nature. But most of the southern part are different schools and universities. And when I say university, I'm talking like your old school university, not your big sprawling campus like your whatever University of Texas Austin that takes up several hundred acres. So yeah.
Well, JT, thank you so much for sitting down and chatting with us. It's always a pleasure to talk to you.
You're welcome. Yeah, I had a good time.
Everybody else gets to finally enjoy your presence like I do every week. But is there any final pieces that we haven't touched on that you would like to leave for our audience?
Your maps are your tools. Don't worry about making them art objects yet. And be consistent in your world building. Have a reason for why you built something a certain way. And of course, magic, the introduction of magic, especially high magic, powerful magic, can change all the rules. Just you get to make up the rules, but you got to adhere to your own rules. There's no fourth wish unless it's a ring of 4 wishes out of the gate, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm just going to leave you with that.
All right.
Perfect. I like it.
Yeah,
So we'll, as always, we'll put links and stuff in the show notes. Maybe I'll get JT to send us some of the photos of his original map that he's taken and the some of the updated stuff, so that way we can include it. So that way, if you want to chase it down, we'll have ways to show that to people besides just the YouTube video. Slash, I'll be able to blow up some of that a little easier for everybody to visually see as they watch this. But that being said, all those links and stuff. Other than that, JT, where can people find you next? Where can they find your work? I know you're going up to Mile High Con soon.
Yeah. At the end of October 25th through the 27th, I'll be in Denver, South Denver at Mile High Con, which is milehighcon.org, and that's milehicon.org. Love going there. I've gone there every year except for 1 year for the past 12 or 13 years now. So it's my local, regional, friendly con that I go to. I'm going to be on like 5 different panels. I'm going to have an author table, not the whole weekend, but for a 2-hour block. I don't have the date and time for that yet. But if you're there, find me. We'll hang out and chat. So after that, I'll be at Cosign, which is in Colorado Springs. That is middle of January, I believe. That is end of January, 24th through the 26th. And I will be there. Programming hasn't been announced or even organized yet, so I'm sure I'll be on a panel or 3 there, but I, at this time, don't know.
I should probably apply. It's probably
it's good.
Thinking.
It's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one.
And that is firstfridayfandom.org, I believe.
We'll find it. Yeah.
Yeah, you'll find it if you Google Cosign, like the mathematical formula, Colorado Springs. It is firstfridayfandom.org/cosign. So that'll get you there. I'm trying to think. And if you want to find me online, jtevans.net is my website, and you can find links to all my socials in the blue bar at the top of every page.
And you can yell at him on Twitter, where he doesn't exist.
Yes. Go find me on Blue Sky and yell at me there, I guess.
Telegram.
There you go.
Yeah.
MySpace. I think I still have a MySpace account.
Ooh. Carrier pigeon.
Maybe.
Final answer.
There you go.
What was the other one? Cities? Was that one of them? Yeah.
GeoCities.
GeoCities. There you go.
That was like the original blogging platform from way back in the day.
Nah.
Yeah. Man, memories, ancient memories.
So much easier than trying to dodge Facebook algorithms. All right, Haley, any final thoughts for this episode?
Negative. I think this has been awesome. We'll get those pictures, what we can, and we'll get the video posted as soon as we can and make sure that we get all those fun extras for people who get the chance to take a look.
And as always, I've been Shady. She's been H.Y. Gregor. This has been our wonderful guest, JT Evans. Thanks once again for tuning in to Worlds Asunder, and we'll see you next time. Later. Technical difficulties on technical difficulties. Sometimes that's just how it goes. We hope you enjoyed this podcast with JT Evans. Love talking to him about how he starts building a city and what he focuses on when it comes to it, and what he doesn't focus on, what he cuts out, what he kind of leaves up to the reader to determine. And we hope you found some good nuggets there to help you build your cities and your landscapes out and understand a little bit better about how to make that story work with all the travel you might be putting into it. As always, you can find our links in our show notes. Make sure you go follow all of our wonderful guests, see what they're doing next. In 2 weeks, we'll go back to our tester of Who the Are We with Margaritas and Mayhem. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe wherever you listen to this podcast. And as always, thanks for helping us tear the worlds asunder. We'll see you next time.